The government's still hinting about sending tariff checks to millions of Americans. And if you don't know the rules and they actually follow through, you might miss out on yours. Or worse, you could fall for a scam that drains your bank account before the real money ever arrives. In 2026, tariff checks are creating more confusion than clarity. Who actually qualifies? How much money are we talking about? And why are some states getting checks while others get nothing at all? This isn't a stimulus. This isn't tax refunds. This is something completely different. We're breaking down the 10 things you absolutely need to know about tariff checks before it's too late. From qualification rules to deposit dates, from tax traps to outright fraud. This is everything the government isn't making clear. And it starts right now. Number 10. What exactly is a tariff check? Let's start with the basics, because this is where most people get lost. A tariff check isn't a stimulus payment. It's not a tax refund. And it's definitely not free money from the government's goodwill. Here's what it actually is. When the US government collects tariffs on imported goods, billions of dollars flow into federal coffers every single year. In 2025 alone, tariff revenue exceeded well over $150 billion collected from foreign companies selling products into American markets. Some lawmakers proposed redirecting a portion of that tariff revenue directly back to American households as economic relief. The idea? You're already paying higher prices because of tariffs. Costs get passed down to consumers. So why not send some of that money back? Makes sense, right? But here's the kicker. It's not automatic. It's not universal. And in many cases, it's not even real yet. Some states may choose to piggyback on any federal plan with their own relief checks. Others are waiting on federal approval that may never come. When you Google tariff check right now, you'll find conflicting information, fake announcements, and scam websites designed to steal your details. The real tariff checks, when they arrive, will come through official government channels. Direct deposit or paper check via the IRS or your state's Treasury Department. They won't require upfront fees. They won't ask for your bank login. And they definitely won't contact you through Facebook Messenger. If you're over 55, on a fixed income, or receiving Social Security, you're especially vulnerable to these scams. Tariff checks are real in some cases, theoretical in others, and completely fake in the hands of scammers. Number 9. Who actually qualifies for a tariff check? This is where things get messy, because there's no single answer. Eligibility depends entirely on where you live and which version of the program your state or the federal government has actually approved. If a federal tariff check program passes, and that's still a big if, qualification would likely follow similar rules to past relief payments. U.S. citizens or legal residents, adults 18 and over, valid Social Security numbers, and income limits. Most proposals cap eligibility at $75,000 for individuals and $150,000 for married couples. But here's what makes this different. Some versions specifically target Social Security recipients, retirees, and disability beneficiaries. Why? Because these groups are hit hardest by inflation driven by tariffs. When the cost of imported goods goes up, people on fixed incomes feel it first. So certain proposals would prioritize checks for anyone receiving Social Security retirement, SSDI, SSI, or veterans benefits. That's roughly 70 million Americans right there. Some states aren't waiting for federal action. They've launched their own programs with their own rules. Some require you to have filed a state tax return. Others require 6 months of residency. And here's the trap catching thousands right now. Scammers are sending fake eligibility notices. Congratulations, you qualify for $1,200 in tariff relief. Click here to claim. But when you click, you're handing over your Social Security number, bank details, and identity to criminals. Real eligibility notifications will come via official mail from the IRS, Social Security Administration, or your state's Department of Revenue. Not email, not text, not social media ads. If you're unsure whether you qualify, check irs.gov. Don't trust random links. Don't call numbers from pop-up ads. And definitely don't pay anyone to help you claim your check, because if it's real, it's free. Number 8. How much money are we actually talking about? The proposed amounts vary wildly. Some federal proposals suggest $800 to $1,200 per eligible adult, with an additional $500 for dependents. Other plans propose $600 flat payments to anyone receiving Social Security or veterans benefits. State-level programs range from $250 to $850 per household. But here's what nobody's talking about. Even if a check comes, it might not be what you expect after taxes. Some tariff rebate proposals are structured as taxable income. Say you get a $1,000 tariff check. If you're in the 12% tax bracket, you'd owe $120 in taxes. That drops your real benefit to $880. For retirees on Social Security, this gets trickier. If the tariff check pushes your combined income over certain thresholds, it could make more of your Social Security benefits taxable. Right now, up to 85% of your Social Security can be taxed if your income exceeds $34,000 for individuals or $44,000 for couples. A $1,000 check could push you over that line, triggering an unexpected tax bill in April. Then there's timing. Even if checks are approved, when do they actually arrive? Early proposals suggest payments would roll out over 60 to 90 days after legislation passes. Direct deposit is fast, but paper checks could take 4 months or more, and scammers know these dollar amounts. They're using them in fake notifications. But real checks won't require you to confirm anything. They'll just show up. Number 7. The timeline nobody's being honest about. Everyone wants to know, when is this money actually coming? And the frustrating answer is, it depends, and maybe never. As of early 2026, there is no federally approved tariff check program in place. Proposals exist, bills have been introduced, but nothing has passed and been signed into law. That means any website claiming tariff checks are being sent out right now is lying, period. If federal legislation does pass, here's the realistic timeline. Congress passes the bill. The president signs it. The IRS and Treasury need 30 to 45 days to set up payment systems. Then payments roll out in waves. Direct deposit recipients would get paid first, likely within 60 days of approval. Paper checks would follow, taking 90 to 120 days or more. State-level tariff rebates are moving faster in some places, like New York and Illinois have proposed plans but haven't finalized funding yet. But if you're waiting on a federal check, don't hold your breath. Even if legislation passes, it could face legal challenges that push payments into late 2026 or even 2027. And scammers are filling the vacuum with fake deadlines. You must claim your tariff check by March 31st or it expires. That's false. Real government payments don't expire like that. Before we get into the tax traps and the Supreme Court case that could kill this entire program, quick request. We track these economic threats every single day here on EconoNova. We don't just follow the headlines. We dig into the raw data that helps you stay ahead. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. Now, let's talk about why this check could actually cost you money. Number 6. Tax traps you need to avoid. This is where tariff checks could actually cost you money. The big question, will tariff checks be taxable income? It depends on the final legislation. Some proposals classify them as non-taxable relief payments, but other versions structure them as taxable income, meaning the IRS will expect you to report the payment and pay taxes. Now here's the trap that's going to blindside retirees. Even if the check itself isn't taxed, it could still increase your taxable income in ways that trigger other consequences. For Social Security recipients, your benefits become taxable when your combined income exceeds $25,000 for individuals or $32,000 for couples. A tariff check could push you over that threshold. Let's say you're currently at $24,000 in combined income. A $1,500 tariff check bumps you to $25,500. Suddenly, 50 to 85% of your Social Security is taxable. That could mean an extra $1,000 to $2,000 owed when you file. The check you thought was helping just created a tax bill. Then there's the Medicare premium issue. If your income spikes, you could get hit with IRMAA, the surcharge Medicare charges high-income beneficiaries. In 2026, if your income exceeds $106,000 for individuals or $212,000 for couples, your Medicare premiums jump significantly. For most retirees, a tariff check won't push them into IRMAA, but if you're already close to the threshold, it could tip you over. Another trap: state taxes. Even if the federal government exempts tariff checks, your state might not. If you live in California, New York, or New Jersey, you could owe state taxes even if the feds don't touch it. Number 5. The Supreme Court kill switch that could end this overnight. This is perhaps the biggest hurdle. The future of the entire dividend program currently sits in the hands of the 9 justices of the U.S. Supreme Court. The case is Learning Resources, Inc. versus Trump. It challenges whether the president had the emergency power to impose these tariffs unilaterally under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Here's what's at stake. If the court rules against the administration, the government might be forced to refund billions in collected duties back to importers like Costco, Target, and Walmart. If that happens, it would blow up the revenue pool for any future checks. The program would be killed before the first check is ever printed. Not delayed, not reduced, killed. Arguments were heard in November 2025, and court watchers expect a ruling sometime this spring. That's the single most important event to watch if you're waiting for this money. The plaintiffs are arguing that the president overstepped his constitutional authority by using emergency powers to impose tariffs that are really just a revenue-raising scheme. They're saying these aren't legitimate national security tariffs. They're a backdoor tax increase that bypasses Congress. If the Supreme Court agrees, it could unravel not just future tariffs, but past collections as well. The government could owe hundreds of billions in refunds. Legal experts are split on how the court will rule. Until the ruling comes down, the entire tariff dividend program is built on sand. Number 4. The $300 billion math problem that doesn't add up. Let's look at the raw numbers. To pay $2,000 to roughly 150 million eligible Americans, the government needs between $450 and $600 billion. However, recent data from Customs and Border Protection shows that total tariff revenue for 2025 was just over $216 billion. There is a massive shortfall here. We're talking about a $300 billion gap between what's been promised and what's been collected. To bridge that gap, the administration would have to significantly increase tariff rates again. We're already at 25 to 60% tariffs on Chinese goods. To raise another $300 billion, those rates would need to climb even higher. But here's the problem. While higher tariffs would raise more revenue for your check, they would also skyrocket the price of your daily groceries, clothing, and electronics. It's a circular trade-off. The government gives you $2,000, but you might end up paying an extra $3,000 in higher costs over the course of the year. If tariffs push consumer prices up by just 4% and you spend $75,000 a year on goods and services, you're paying an extra $3,000 annually. Your $2,000 dividend just cost you $3,000. You're net negative $1,000. For retirees on fixed incomes, this is even worse. Social Security doesn't adjust fast enough to keep pace with tariff-driven inflation, so you get a one-time $2,000 payment, but your purchasing power drops permanently. Number 3, the Congressional Debt War that's blocking your check. President Trump has stated publicly that he wants to issue these checks via executive order, bypassing Congress entirely. But the U.S. Constitution is crystal clear. Only Congress has the power of the purse. And right now, some GOP senators are fighting to use the tariff billions to pay down the $38 trillion national debt instead of sending checks to individuals. They are calling the dividend inflationary and arguing that reducing the national debt is the only way to protect the long-term value of the dollar. This internal battle within the Republican Party is the biggest legislative roadblock right now. But here's the political problem. Voters want their checks. Telling people we're going to take this money and pay down debt instead is politically toxic. So the White House is caught. Without congressional approval, the IRS doesn't have the legal authority to move that money from the Treasury to your bank account. This gridlock means that even if the Supreme Court says yes, even if the math worked, the program could still die in Congress. Number 2, the 2026 Scam Tsunami that's already stealing millions. IRS and consumer protection officials are warning about a surge in text and email scams piggybacking on the tariff dividend idea. Scammers are sending out fake verification links via text message and Facebook, claiming you need to verify your identity to receive your dividend. These messages look official. They use IRS logos, they reference the tariff dividend by name, and they're stealing millions. Here's the truth. The IRS will never text you a link. They will never send you a Facebook message. They will never ask you to verify your identity via email for a government payment. If you click these links, you're giving a hacker your social security number, your date of birth, your bank login, everything they need to drain your accounts. There is no application process for these checks yet, because the program hasn't officially launched. Some of these scams are incredibly sophisticated. They'll send you to websites that look exactly like irs.gov. The colors, the logos, the layout, it all looks real. But the URL is slightly different, and once you enter your information, it's over. Consumer fraud losses tied to government payment scams are already in the tens of millions of dollars a year, and tariff-branded scams are part of that trend. So how do you protect yourself? First, delete any text message or email that claims to be about your tariff dividend. Don't click, don't reply, just delete. Second, never give out your social security number or bank information to anyone who contacts you first. Third, check your bank accounts regularly. And fourth, spread the word. Talk to your parents, your grandparents, your neighbors. Older Americans are the primary targets. Now, before we get to number 1, if you found this breakdown helpful, do me a favor. Hit that like button and drop a comment below. Have you heard about these tariff checks? Are you planning on one? Let me know in the comments. And make sure you're subscribed because these economic shifts are happening fast, and you need to stay ahead of what's coming. Number 1, why the real checks won't arrive until 2027 and what that means. Finally, let's talk about the timeline nobody in Washington wants to admit. Even if the Supreme Court rules in favor, even if Congress approves the funding, even if all the political stars align perfectly, the IRS still has to build an entirely new payment infrastructure from scratch. And that takes time. A lot more time than anyone's admitting. Here's what's really happening behind the scenes. The IRS is designed to collect money, not distribute hundreds of billions in trade-based payments. Their systems are built around tax returns, refunds, and withholdings. The tariff dividend requires coordination between the Treasury Department, Customs and Border Protection, and the IRS in ways that have never been done before. People inside the Treasury and IRS, speaking to reporters, have suggested late 2026 at the absolute earliest, with some internal estimates drifting into 2027. And here's why that delay matters. Every month this gets pushed back is another month of inflation eating away at the value of that $2,000. If prices rise 3% over the next year, that $2,000 check has the purchasing power of $1,940 by the time it arrives. Wait until 2027? Now it's worth $1,880 in today's dollars. But there's a bigger issue here. This isn't the first time a major government payment program has faced massive delays. Remember the 2020 stimulus checks? The IRS promised they'd go out within weeks. The reality? Millions of Americans waited 4 to 6 months. Some people didn't get their checks until 2021, and that was using existing infrastructure. The tariff dividend is exponentially more complex. Delays aren't just possible, they're virtually guaranteed. And here's the political angle nobody's talking about. The longer this gets delayed, the less pressure there is to actually deliver. If checks don't go out until 2027, that's after the 2026 midterm elections. The political urgency disappears. Lawmakers who promised these payments can say they tried, blame the courts or the IRS, and move on. Some political analysts are already predicting that the tariff dividend becomes a 2028 campaign promise instead of a 2026 reality. So what does all this mean? It means the 2026 tariff dividend is really the 2027 tariff dividend at best, and at worst, it's a political promise that never materializes at all. The Supreme Court could kill it, Congress could block it, the math might not work, or the IRS simply might not be ready. The bottom line? This is a waiting game wrapped in legal battles, political theater, and administrative chaos. The checks might come, they might not. And if they do, they'll arrive later, be worth less, and cause more tax headaches than anyone's currently admitting. That's not pessimism. That's just the reality of how government programs actually work when you look past the press releases and campaign promises. Thank you for watching. We are EconoNova. Stay sharp.